Santa Claus, that mythical myth of a character, sometimes with magical powers and sometimes just a dude at a supermarket. Santa Claus has appeared in all sorts of forms in reality, but also in all sorts of ways in movies, both animated and not. And considering there are so many different variations, understandings, reinterpretations, and power scale, I figured let's give a look at thinking, what is the best Santa out of all the ones that exist? Who would win in a 1v1v1 and so on? The big Santa Claus Battle Royale. I would imagine there's a whole bunch of old grandpas that would immediately keel over, but then sometimes there will be those Santa Clauses that just unfairly blast through the ranks. So let's discuss a good handful of them, shall we? The rules around what powers a Santa Claus has basically goes to what is shown in their movie. What sleigh do they have? What events happen in their movie that we can extrapolate into how they'd actually fare if they're actually fighting one-on-one. The definition of a Santa Claus is any kind of person who has taken on the Santa mantle. Sometimes that is because their name is literally Santa Claus, you know, they are the Santa Claus, and other times it's like a family generational thing. You see what I'm referencing here. So in that regard, Bad Santa doesn't count, as this guy's not really Santa. And though he is willing to be violent and do whatever means necessary to get his way, he'd die immediately at the mercy of these immortals. So I guess that counts as our very first fatality in this fantasy conflict. Our next weakest Santa will probably come from the form of the Claus in Nightmare Before Christmas. I know that Oogie Boogie's quite a powerful character and all that, but even considering that, it didn't take the guy a lot of effort to kidnap Mr. Claus, you know? In some movies, Santa Claus is very much a damsel in distress or a target to just laugh at for the real protagonist of the movie. So these kind of Santas would not last. And I think that makes a lot of sense. And if I was to ever expect what kind of Santa would try to do anything similar to what happens to the Nightmare Before Christmas Santa, I'd say good old Tim Allen Santa would probably be the one to take him out. But they would be the next weakest in this lineup. It really depends how you interpret the lore in the Santa Claus movies / TV series, I guess now. My God, what is Disney doing? But based on the individual, it's established here that you could literally scare Santa off a roof and kill him. That's the first major event in the movie, after all. Can't avoid it. That Santa Claus is a pretty low ball as well. Now, Santa from the 1980s cult classic Santa Claus, the movie, my goodness, it's going to be hard to follow these titles, is actually immortal. For the first time, this guy is a full-on mythic creature of a character. I don't know much about the guy, but my friend says that an elder of the elves grants him and Mrs. Claus immortality at the start of the movie, but then spends most of the runtime being undermined by an evil toy manufacturer trying to put him out of business. Still, how far does this immortality go? Is this just an age thing so he can do this for eternal generations, or can he still get taken out by a tranquilizer dart? Regardless, for this, I'm putting him fairly in the middle neutral ground. He may be the one to live the longest, but I feel like he could still take a stabbing to the heart, you know? Sure, Santa Claus would never do that, but you never know, you know? He's probably pretty grumpy. Now, Ed Asner's Santa in Elf wouldn't get messed around with an evil toy company business. He'll kidnap the grumpy businessman's son and end up raising him into his workforce. Now, this guy's arguably the best classical Santa portrayal. Just get that poorly fitted turbine to fall off his roof again, and I'm sure it'll knock Scott Calvin off a roof. Still, he is representative of classical Santa, as we're now going to move on to the list that goes a little bit beyond the classic old man jolly dude, you know? Because in saying that, if he could be scared off by the Central Park Rangers, then I'm sure he'd be no match for Miracle on 34th Street's Kris Kringle. The first of the Santas here to have an on-screen punch-up that we can actually reference and bounce off of, which admittedly does have him end up in a lengthy court case, but we know this guy can draw blood if provoked. So I guess this is the first guy with actual evil intent, if you want to see it that way. Whether he's innocent or guilty, just watch the court case in the movie. Now, there is a lot of debate around whether this Santa is the real deal, as the movie intentionally doesn't show any full-on magic, but the US court system does end up legally recognizing him as real, so we'll stick with it for now. There's also 2 versions of this movie, so there's 2 violent Kris Kringles running around in this battle royale. But alright, with 2 Kris Kringles in mind, let's now upgrade a little further to the world where there are 4 of them. Yes, the Arthur Christmas family pack are here. And I mean, within seconds, Santa and Arthur are already dead. They may fully embody the spirit of Christmas and the good-giving, jolly vibes of wholesome family interactions, but that's not going to get you anywhere in a bloodbath to the end. However, providing they learn to work together, the stubborn soldier Grand Santa and tech man Steve have technology hacked directly from the military and a sleigh the size of the Starship Enterprise. Technology-wise, they're the most overpowered here and have a real good shot of actually being the most successful Santas in this world that we've fabricated for them. However, strip that away and you've just got a bunch of ultimately mortal dudes with elongated life. I guess it really comes down to what's the rules of this Hunger Games? Does everyone get stripped and just have to fight with their fists? I would like to go on the logic that they get to keep their technology, so these guys, I mean, they might as well just fly off and stay away for the most. No, everyone can fly, that's not gonna work. Everyone can fly, everyone has sleighs. I actually kind of want to see this animated now. It won't happen, but, you know, well, I guess that is a Christmas movie prompt. Santa Royale, yeah. It would be, you know what, I'm actually kind of hooked on the idea. Anyway, we'll keep going through different Santas for now. Hello, thank you for making it halfway through this video. If you haven't already and you're liking what you see, come subscribe. Maybe I'll make a series out of Battle Royale series. Give me suggestions for character types you'd like to see battled together, and I'll construct more of a formula to this on who's the strongest and how they would work in certain fights. It's an idea. Put them down below or on our Discord server if you'd like, but otherwise, let's get back to Santa Claus. Santa Claus eye? Oh, whatever. So on the vibe of gigantic vehicular technology, step in the Polar Express Santa. One of 800 parts played by Tom Hanks in that movie, including the motion capture for the main boy. My goodness. Forget a Star Destroyer-sized sleigh. What scares me is the power that regular-sized sleigh has to balance a sack that's 10 times its size whilst traveling faster than the speed of light. It's almost like the scary thing about this Santa is what we don't know about him. He is well and truly magical and breaking the boundaries of physics to make things work, and if, say, him and the Arthur Christmases were to do battle, their elf legions going at it in the background would cause equal casualties on either side, and that's a whole other element I hadn't really thought about before. What armies does each Santa Claus have? Everyone gets a sleigh, everyone probably has reindeer, some have technological metallic advancements, some have full-on magic powers, and yeah, the Arthur Christmases have a whole horde of elves. Will Ferrell's not going to be able to do much in contribution compared to these guys. Why do I really want to see this? But you know that the Tom Hanks Santa would be probably the one to finish off Steve with one blow of his ominous green mitten. I think Tom Hanks beats the Arthur Christmases, and he didn't even have to get on the train yet. That's a whole other vehicle he has in his arsenal. Is there a militant word for a pack of vehicles? Now, he would seemingly be the one to stand on top until Kurt Russell's Christmas Chronicles Santa pops along with his Grand Theft Auto mastery of driving. He does get arrested, but I think it's like, you know, when they cuff Superman in Man of Steel. He goes along with it, just not to scare humanity. We see he's got magical transportive powers, so he's not gonna let Polar Express Santa and his overpowered sleigh get past him. We're starting to push the limits of power scale here, as each one of these Santas now is just far beyond humanity's powers. Because that's when Klaus steps in from the Netflix movie, now with his giant flat surface arms, literally like he's built for a fight. In the movie, he may start off as a regular dude, but he then transforms into an immortal mythic force. And I would be rating all of these Santas at their most powerful stage. It's a real good contender, but maybe a bit more of an on-the-ground fist-fight kind of guy, paling in comparison to all the technology and magic around him. Amongst the many things to like in Klaus, the initial mystery and the reveal of his backstory adds something rare to the Santa mythos: nuance. However, there has never been such a thoughtful exploration of why a character like Santa would do what he does. So it's nice he embodies spirit, I guess, but he might be like Arthur, you know, dead pretty early on, with a little bit more immortal grey area to him. Either way, this guy is quite possibly the beefiest Santa on this whole roster, frequently displaying his strength without even meaning to. But then the real competition on the strength front will then come in the form of the Rise of the Guardian Santa. This was such a funny but authentic take on Santa, with the Russian accent weirdly making sense. Those naughty and nice tattoos on each arm imply a more hardened Santa who's seen violence. Plus, he can summon portals to cut down his journey, so you can bet that he will be coming into the fight in any one he chooses to take in and then getting out just as quickly. To have a Santa that can actually teleport is also a massive upgrade to consider against everyone's library of accolades. And yet, he does not have the armory of the Chronicles of Narnia Father Christmas. This guy literally bestows the Pevensies with weapons to take down the White Witch, which they end up doing, then becoming the rulers of Narnia. This is a battle-readied war Santa who should not be messed with. And with such a commander-like role would be a very good contender for strongest as well. And then you've got some other battle-hardened Santas, like how about David Harbour in Violent Night, which I only recently saw and is just a lot of fun to watch, would recommend it with a drink. Clearly being way beyond any human, but I'm not sure if he would necessarily reach the same ranks as these magical super techno gods at this point. And so I will end you off with one final Santa, potentially the most powerful of all the ones we've seen, but he's so powerful we haven't even actually seen him on screen. No, I'm not talking about the real-life mythological one or like the 13 Santas of Iceland, including a guy called Door Sniffer, that is apparently a real thing. No, what I'm talking about is the canonical existence of Santa Claus in the X-Men universe. That's apparently a thing. Why is it not a movie yet? Come on. The understanding is that Santa Claus is actually a mutant in the mutant universe and is actually one of the strongest mutants of all time, being described as the most powerful Omega level mutant in the Marvel universe. And considering the power scales already going on with mutants and just the far overpowered weaponry that these kind of characters have, I would not be surprised if this version of Santa Claus, a version that not only has all the mythical magic powers of a general Santa Claus, but also has ungodly mutant powers to the point they could probably destroy their own universe and all the other mutants in their world, means this guy could very easily be the most powerful Santa Clauses. Or perhaps, with all of these jolly old men coming into one big place, they'll all just decide to chill out, enjoy each other's company, and sit on a rocking chair for the other 364 days of the year. Or they'd be too busy delivering joy and presents to kids anyway. As though I'm sure Santas could be incredibly powerful if they had villainous, evil, destructive intent, it's not the spirit they actually all have in most of their souls, so a battle like this would never actually happen. As much as I'd love to see the Polar Express train blasting through a battlefield against several magic-wielding Santas on the side, it can only remain as a fantasy for now. But bloody hell does the mythos of Santa Claus get crazy, fantastical, and powerful the deeper you dig into it. And I'm pretty certain there's all sorts of other Santas on this list I haven't even considered that are also running for like the top 5 in this collection. But for now, I'll just leave it at that. Santa appears in all shapes and forms in reality, and all sorts of forms in movies, animated or no. But who do you think would actually be the most powerful, the one to beat all the others in the race? I'd be genuinely curious to hear your thoughts, or just who would actually win in a race. Very valid to think too. It's probably Tom Hanks and the speed of light thing. But for now, I'll just end it off here. There's your one of like 2 Christmas videos I'm gonna be doing this month. But for now, my name's been Daz. You didn't really care, and I'll see you in a little bit.